BU Evolution headquarters. I'm absolutely delighted to welcome Stewart Pearce. Stewart, welcome.
Hi, it's an honour to be here.
And I'm absolutely delighted. I heard you, I met you about 2 weeks ago at Simon Hinton's International Entrepreneurs event. We were both speaking. And I have to say I was absolutely captivated and mesmerized, which takes a lot of doing for me, in your speech. And so for the viewers of BU Evolution, perhaps you can tell us about what you do.
Oh my goodness me, I do so many different things. So I think what you're referring to is really what my delivery was all about that evening.
Right.
Which is that I was talking about the fact that we each have a unique sound.
Right.
We each have a note, a signature note, a signature sound that is unique to each and every one of us. I mean, so your sound isn't owned by any other human being on this planet. And if we're 7.75 billion people, that's quite remarkable. And this is something that our ancient cultures knew about and literally taught it and lived it. But it's something that over the last 150 years we seem to have forgotten. Because the expansion of that idea of the fact that we each have a note is that our ancient ones, our forebears, used that note to stabilize themselves in the world. And we would listen, because we were all oriented to listening to somebody's note. We would listen to see if that person would be in their note. And that meant that they came from a place of truth. It meant that they came from a place of integrity.
Okay, that's great. So, I mean, I'm interested in how you found this and how you implemented it for yourself and what the changes were, what the sort of transition was.
So, well, where it came from was the fact that I've always been fascinated by sound, because I've always seen, even from my earliest time as a small child, I saw the effect that sound had on people or had on living matter. And so I was absolutely fascinated by this and watched it as a child. But then, of course, discovered words that are sonic entities in themselves and that can comprise a thought in one word: love, hate. We summon the very reality of that feeling state or that experience through the words. So words anchor states. So I became aware of these words, and I loved words. I mean, I always remember, I was about 6 or 7, when I heard for the first time, really heard for the first time, the word significant. And it was one of the most beautiful things that I'd ever heard. So I put it into every sentence, which was not the point. And I learned an essential boundary, which was that, you can't put it in every sentence. Otherwise, actually, all you're doing is creating insignificance by the use of the word. However, so that was the next step. And then, of course, as I grew, as I matured, as I experienced the world and the challenges of the world, because learning as a child was very complex in the sense that I couldn't learn, it seemed, as most of my peers could learn. So I couldn't read, I couldn't do math. We now know that I was synesthetic, which is a crossover of the senses. It's called synesthesia or synesthetic. It's like dyslexia. So whenever I looked at the printed word, it was just these arrangements of different colours that was completely fuzzy and obscure, so I couldn't read the word. I eventually learned to read through flow. I learned to read through singing. And then I realized that I was so held as a result of being in fear as a child that whenever I tried to read, it was always with the breath. So of course I was in trauma all the time. And as soon as I started singing, I realized that the hymn or the psalm or the anthem that I sang, so I was put into a church choir, had this wonderful melody, this rhythm. So I was able to actually float on the wave. And again, it was a way of seeing waves that I saw when I was a child, that were always protective and were always life enhancing and were always brilliant and were always joyous and were always full of wildness and wonder and splendor.
Wow, it's an amazing story. Again, you got me really captivated. And so you had quite a traumatic childhood, and then sound was your thing. I mean, you realised that sound was one of your heightened senses. That so you're able to bring that into your everyday being to resolve maybe issues. Would you say? Yeah. Amazing. And you know, we could speak. And we just had a pre-conversation with you, which is just, again, you know, I could speak to you forever. And you now go about training people, is that right? So
So what happened was that as I began to see the power of sound in a very specific way as an adolescent, somebody said to me, you know, your voice, there's something about your voice. There's something about your voice. Why don't you go and do this drama class at school, at high school? And I thought, oh, why not? So I went and had an absolute ball because it was freeing, it was liberating, and there was so much joy involved. And it seemed that it was no longer tightly held within the academia that was happening in all the other classes. And then somebody said, you know, you're really good at this. Why don't you become an actor? Now look, that's what I've always gone for. Because adoration to me, being adored, adoring, is one of the most powerful elements of my life. So when somebody says, you're really good at that, then I go for that, because quite frankly, I was not good at a lot of other things. So when somebody says, you know, you're really good at that, and I respected that individual or felt a sensation of truth from that individual, or just simply liked them as a human being, I could feel a sense of trusting and having faith, then I went with it. So I became an actor.
Yeah.
And you know, and of course I met people that didn't like me, you know, who didn't like what I was doing. But then I also met a lot of people who did like. So I established myself as an actor for about 8, 9, nearly 10 years. And then, and that took me to New York. And I was working in New York as an actor. That was going really successfully. And to cut a long story short, I got a major casting for a movie. And I got the part. So there I was, moving from New York to Los Angeles to make this big movie. This was 1979. And in the middle of packing up the apartment where I'd been for 2 years in New York, the telephone rang and everything went into slow motion. And I thought, what is going on here? And there was my brother saying, what are you doing? And I said, well, you know what I'm doing? I'm moving. And he said, are you sitting down? You need to know Mum's got terminal cancer. What are you going to do about it? So in the frenzy of this movie Mum, I thought, let the movie go and go back to the United Kingdom and be with her. The doctor said she had 3 months to live. She lasted for a year. So I nursed her all the way through that. So that was a huge initiation, a huge ritual of saying goodbye to your mother and being prepared into the state of healing, you know, witnessing what cancer is all about and how it can be a huge initiation into a new way of being, even if that new way of being is to transit into death. And then when she'd gone, there I was thinking, now what do I do? And the telephone rang, and again the same thing happened in slow motion. And here was a remarkable woman saying, whom I knew, what are you doing? Where have you been? I haven't seen you. So I told her the story about my circumstance. She said, well, what are you going to do? And I said, I don't know, I'm just being this. I don't know, I'm lost. I've lost my agent, I've lost my manager, I don't know. And she said, well, come and teach for me. And this was the voice director of the Royal Shakespeare Company, who I'd worked with for 3 years.
Wow.
And so I said, what do you mean? I'm an actor. And she said, no, come on, there's something about your voice. So you see, again, there's something about your voice. It's been said to me all the way through my life. There's something about your voice. So I'd just gone with that. So I became a voice coach. In her second breath, she said, and there's this woman I want you to go and see. I don't want to work with her. I'm a die-hard Democrat. She's just taken over the Conservative Party. So 2 weeks later, there was I walking into Downing Street to work with Margaret Thatcher.
Wow.
So that's where it started. And now, 38 years later, 39 years later, I'm a voice coach.
Amazing. And the way you describe yourself as a child and how you've evolved today, and I would never have known that you were kind of struggling as a child, because you kind of exude an amazing energy and confidence, and you seem like you have a real deep inner peace about you, and so you've obviously, you know, found what works for you and transformed and able to share with others, which I think is just an amazing thing. And
Oh, bless you. You're very kind.
no, I mean, I really mean it, because I don't get that captivated. I've seen a lot of speakers in my time, and 2 minutes and I'm out usually. And there was something about it. You have great presence, but the content of what you're speaking about resonates deeply. How do our people find you? I mean, what we're obviously building BU.
Well, I work internationally, which I'm very fortunate, that I believe strongly that thought creates reality and feeling actualizes the manifestation. So I work with the law of attraction, this great science that we're waking up to, that we're here to optimize our creativity full of love and joy. So I just consider, well, what is the next project that I want to be involved in? Where is the greatest pleasure? Where is the greatest joy? And how can I accomplish this? And then one makes a series of choices, and we then interrelate with the world and speak to people about it. Where do I need to be in the world? And then something miraculous happens. The job comes. And if the job doesn't come, it's meant that you're supposed to be going in another direction. So another opportunity comes. So I work internationally. That's something I've created, based largely between the UK and the US. But people can easily find me through www.stewartpearce.com, which is STEWARTPEARCE.
It's got the W, right.
www.stewartpearce.com.
Stuart, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I'm so grateful for you joining us on the beginnings of BU Evolution.
I'm immensely excited about your project. I feel that it has a soulfulness about it, which means that it's zeitgeist, because we're all tuning into these soul dimensions, these virtues in our lives of empathy, of compassion, of inclusivity. I feel that your work has a resonance of these degrees, and I know that this project is going to be immensely successful. So
you're so
it's
kind.
a pleasure to be here.
Stuart, thank you so much. I can't tell you, but thank you very much for coming.
My pleasure.